everyone. Recently, we've been trying to grapple with the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic, which has hit the world. And there's been a lot of panic and uncertainty in regards to the economy, both the global and the local economy. So today I have with us Keith Maru, an expert research analyst at AIB Capital, who will be giving us some perspective and an assessment of both the global economy and the local economy. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you for having me, Naila.
The coronavirus pandemic, or COVID-19 as we call it, has been a serious cause of concern, not just locally but globally as well. Why do you think this is the case?
Novel coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's formerly known, is a totally new virus from the strain of coronaviruses. So we need to be concerned because of its health and its economic impacts, most importantly. From a health perspective, the virus has shown to be extremely contagious, spreading from one country to another at an accelerating and exponential rate. Over the course of the last 3-4 months, since the virus was initially reported in China, then we've seen that the number of cases has grown to 343,000. The mortality rate is also a point of concern because in that space of time, we've seen about 14,700 deaths. And that's quite high. So we need to be able to form policies around trying to safeguard our economy and our public health system so that we can at least try and flatten that exponential curve that the virus seems to be following.
Yes, we've been seeing that flatten the curve, the curve. What are some of the measures you think Kenya should take? I
think the government is on the right track, in my personal opinion. I feel like the social distancing measures that they're implementing are a good step forward. Not quite there yet. And I feel like the government should continue emphasizing that Kenyans who are working and who don't necessarily need to go to the offices should only work from home. We should see like a more concerted effort to be able to get onto teleconferencing methods for people working in offices. And I think the government as well needs to ensure that our medical practitioners are also effectively protected against the virus. I think one of the measures which has stood out is the government has or is trying to roll out free hand sanitizers by effectively using the ethanol that they've seized over time to turn it into the manufacture of hand sanitizers, which the public will definitely consume and benefit from.
What are some of the measures being taken in other parts of the world?
Basically, there's been intervention by the government and as well intervention by the monetary policy agents. So from a government perspective, we've been able to see governments implement social distancing policies, and in countries which are severely affected, we've been able to see them effectively implement lockdowns on entire cities to be able to try and mitigate against the spread of the virus. Remember, it spreads exponentially and largely through respiratory droplets, which can be transmitted from person to person. So you effectively want to be able to limit the number of social contacts made by members of a population. From a monetary perspective, we've been able to see that central banks around the world have been effectively cutting policy rates to try and prop up the economy. So what this is effectively trying to do is to try and stimulate economic or consumer demand or demand amongst consumers so that they can continue, purchasing or continue living life as they used to from a purchasing perspective.
That's important.
That's also quite important. And as well, it's also important to maintain the purchasing power of these individuals or members of a population. So I think the measures being taken or the monetary agents around the world are doing a good job with trying to keep the markets up and trying to keep consumer demand propped up.
Yes, but there's been a lot of panic and uncertainty in regards to what people are seeing with the economy. The stocks have been plummeting. But before we go there, can you give us a broad outlook on where the global economy and the local economy are at right now? What have been the effects thus far?
Okay, at this point in time, we've seen the agents or the Bretton Woods institution like the IMF and the World Bank, as well as the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, basically revising the projections downwards. So we've seen that initially the IMF expected that the world would grow at about 2.9%. But given recent occurrences of recent events, I think that outlook is likely to be revised downwards. So we've seen that there's been a rolling effect in terms of the recessionary effects that this virus has been having, and a slowdown in the economies like in China has basically led to slowdown of economies in other countries. So it's following something of a rolling recession pattern, and we're likely to see that as the virus takes spread across a different or a range of countries, then we shall see that the economies in these countries will slowly start, or the economic output is slowly going to start declining.
Okay, I see. So something of a domino effect.
Yes, something of a domino effect. And this applies not only just to the supply side shocks. So supply side shocks would be what's the quantity that your manufacturing industry is churning out? What are your retailers being able to do and being able to sell? So we'll see that effect continue. And I think the most notable one as well is the cancellation of sporting events. So as you know, the Tokyo Olympics were to be held sometime this year, I think in July. And because of the coronavirus, the Tokyo Olympics are now being cast into doubt. And as of today, the NFL as well has also been cancelled out. And even football, even the English Premier League, what many Kenyans like myself normally enjoy. So I think with the cancellation of those events, there's a lot of industries which are going to be affected, and it's a cause of concern not just locally but globally as well.
Are there any sectors that are likely to withstand the virus?
Yes, I believe so. At least in the short term, I think wholesale and retail, you're going to see a shift in consumer demand for consumer goods. So you'll see more people turning towards shopping for household commodities. One
of the questions on everyone's mind is in regards to the Kenyan economy. The stock market has been plummeting, not only in Kenya. Of course, we heard about the Dow Jones. Maybe you can advise investors who are in the stock market or even thinking of entering the stock market, given what's going on. What's the way forward for them?
I think locally it's a little too early to tell just how far-reaching the effects of the coronavirus will be. But we expect that the country is likely to undergo a decline in economic growth, at least for the next few quarters. And we also anticipate that there'll be a shrinkage in consumer demand. So you'll find that there's less people demanding for certain goods in certain industries. I think one of the areas that's likely to take a major hit is now for long life or longer lasting goods, like for the market, the automobile industry in the country is likely to suffer from
not perishables,
this.
But cars.
So cars, your electronics, your phones, so demand for these goods is likely to decline as well. And also supply side, and from the supply point of view, I think most of our electronic goods are sourced from China, as mentioned before, and we'll slowly see the decline in the purchase of these goods. Equity markets, or our equity markets, have been declining slowly but surely, I think, since the reporting of the first case in the country. So we've seen that the market capitalization has reduced since the announcement of the first case, and the Nairobi All Share Index as well as the NSE 20 Share Index have both lost a bit of value in the last few weeks. However, this presents a buy opportunity to investors who are seeking to enter the market.
Okay, when you say a buy opportunity, I mean, these stocks have been plummeting. Which kind of stocks are you talking about?
I think first and foremost, it's important for investors to be able to slowly accumulate stocks rather than aggressively purchase stocks. And the stocks that the investors should look into are stocks for companies with strong underlying fundamentals. So these are basically companies which are likely to grow, or which are able to weather the storm that the coronavirus is currently causing.
That means that eventually when things turn around, these prices are going to shoot up and you'll have entered at a discount. Precisely. And that's the importance of being able to accumulate stocks on these counters progressively, because what that effectively does is that it minimizes your initial cost, and you'll be able to capitalize on the higher margins that from selling your stocks on the market. Eventually. Okay. Thank you so much, Keith. That was very informative. Thank you for having me, Naila. And I'm sure that was a benefit to everyone who's watching this video. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, follow the government directives, and don't panic. See you all next time.